All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for attending our LTE Cat 1 webinar. The main thing we're going to be talking about today is, migrating to LTE for pretty much the same or a similar cost to 3G and 2G. Like I said, I'd like to thank you guys for attending. And normally I give it a few more minutes before I kick off, but we'll just go ahead and start it. So for the agenda, we'll talk a little bit about LTE Cat 1. What is it? How does it relate, to the industry today? We'll talk about InHand's LTE router portfolio, what product lines we have, what's going to support LTE Cat 1, and kind of the dates on that. We'll also go through some case studies on Cat 1 routers, what's the applications, where is it used, what's relevant, what have we been doing out there with it. And then we'll talk about LTE migration bundle for, kind of helping people get away from that 2 and 3G and get on the 4G LTE wagon. So Cat 1, in essence, it's optimized for M2M and IoT. So the way to think about it is, where did Cat 1 come from? What happened? Most of the modules in the routers, range from, traditionally it's like Cat 3, Cat 4. It's usually what you'd find in your cellular device, your mobile phone. And over the time, a lot of challenges have come up, with the boom of IoT and the growth of M2M. A lot of stuff like metering, fleet management, retail, different financial. The more stuff that you connect, there seems to be this growth. And the problem is a lot of these applications, especially in IoT, they only use a small amount of data. They need a low latency, but they don't need a lot of data speed. So also they need longevity and reliability. Just because they need a lower data product doesn't mean they need something that, it's going to be obsolete in a couple of years. And as most of us know here in the States, with 2 and 3G pretty much going out the door, I know Canada's pretty much, if I recall, losing 2G, the people are having to migrate. And a lot of people want to go to LTE either because they have to or because the life cycle, is going to be so much longer. And it's not cost effective when you're talking your traditional LTE products, such as, a Cat 3 or a Cat 4. And really you're paying for more than you need. So these are kind of the different challenges in the market, the issues that were coming up, with the dawn of 2G, 3G, So LTE Cat 1, that was pretty much the solution. So 10 megabytes per second downlink and then 5 megabytes per second uplink. I mean, it's perfect for most IoT applications, especially the uplink speed, because traditionally IoT devices, they're used in monitoring, reporting. It's connected to some type of sensor or some type of device that needs to report back. It's not sending a massive amount of data. It needs lower latency, though it doesn't really need a lot of bandwidth because it's just sending report information. Also, with the cost of cellular coming down and with, more products in IoT, a lot of people have started looking at, connecting devices to batteries. You want something connected to a battery, connectivity, put in different installations and different sites where you don't have a hookup to DC or AC, So the problem with Cat 3 and Cat 4 modules is that, they burn and consume a lot more power. So one of the beauties of an LTE Cat 1 is it consumes less power, so you get a more extended battery life. And of course, what everyone loves when we're talking about migrating from, one version of cellular to a newer one, it's lower cost. Because there's a lot of people, it happens every 5 to 10 years whenever there's a migration that, LTE comes out or 5G comes out or a new cellular connectivity comes out, but everyone waits till the last minute to change because, it's a lot of upfront costs. And like I said, the LTE Cat 3 and 4, the price isn't down enough really to make it, to incentivize people to go ahead and switch over before the, last point of no return where they stop, activating INEIs or they just start cutting the towers off for 2 and 3G. And of course, With the Cat 1, you're future-proofing yourself with a very simple, easy migration. So, you know, in the United States, we can expect at least another 10 years out of LTE. And then if we're talking, you know, Canada, you know, you guys will have 3G for quite a few more years, which means that the LTE will be way beyond 10 years. So, you know, this is a cheap, easy way for people to go ahead and upgrade to LTE. And, you know, once they do it, they don't have to worry about, well, in 5 years, you know, do I have to go out and get a new product? Do I have to go out and spec something new? You know, do I have to, you know, the pains of hiring someone to go out and remove an installation, install a new installation, new configurations, new testing, you know, you wipe all that out. So really in the long term, you're saving a lot of money. So transition to low power, you know, wide area network. So just to give you a little idea, you know, how does Cat 1 compare with 3G and 2G? So like I said, I mentioned before the 10 megabytes per second and 5 megabytes per second on the download speeds and upload speeds. And, you know, you don't really need any high bandwidth on the download. And most IoT applications, I'll say it again, you know, they're reporting back. They're sending data back. So, you know, with an upload peak rate of 5 megabytes per second, I mean, the average is probably 3, you know. That's a really good time. And the best part is you still have a low latency. So if we're talking ATM customers, I mean, I'm sure we've all had the experience where we go to an ATM and we put our card in, we put our PIN in, we select the money we want, and then it feels like we got to wait 2 or 3 minutes for it to actually reach out to the processor and, you know, actually process the transaction to get our money, you know. And plus with a lot of reporting devices, you know, it's not a lot of data, but they need to get it back in a timely manner. So it's got, you know, just as good as 3G, and you know it's much better than 2G. So ideal alternative. So just a little more scope since we're talking, you know, the different categories and different speeds. So if you don't know what speed your devices or your customers are using, you know, this chart kind of gives you a good idea of, you know, where does the Cat 1 fit well. So if you're looking at your traditional, you know, routers, network bridges, IoT gateways, you still need to stay with the Cat 3 or 4 on that, you know. Or if you're looking at, you know, all these wearables, all these, you know, things like smoke detectors, different types of lighting, you know, traditionally most people will go with, you know, narrowband or Cat M1, but there's still a ton of products that they need more bandwidth than the lower two, but they don't need as much as Cat 4. So, you know, anything between 1 megabyte per second and 10 megabytes per second, you know, is ideal. So think of digital signage, ATMs, alarm panels, anything related to POS, connected healthcare. And of course, you know, a lot of people are wondering, well, if we're talking Cat 1, like what's the coverage? You know, what's the support looking like? Can I do it in my region? Well, you know, from our experience and what we've been out there testing and looking at, you know, Rogers, Bell, and TELUS in Canada are supporting it, and all the major carriers in the United States are already, you know, on board with the LTE Cat 1. So now we'll move into InHand. You know, what are we doing with our router portfolio? What's going Cat 1? You know, what's our plan for the future? So for those of you who aren't too familiar, we have, you know, a few main series that we typically promote for connectivity and monitoring remote access. And that's, you know, the higher end is the InRouter600 series, you know, a heavily industrialized product, you know, grid, you know, put it in a factory, industrial IoT, a lot of software features. The next tier down is the InRouter600 series, which kind of breaks into 2 separate, you know, tiers, the 611, which is more commercial, but it's still industrial, and then the 615, which is kind of a lower level than the 900 series. And then, of course, we do have the NDTU series, which we haven't really been pushing it in Canada and the US because it's a 2G, 3G product. It's just kind of a data terminal. So I hook it into the device. It's one-way communications. It just reports back. No complex routing. You know, nothing very complex about it. It's just a modem. So right now we got LTE Cat 3, you know, for the 900 and the 600 series. And for the 900 series, we launched earlier this year the InRouter 901L series, which is a Cat 1. It was kind of our first. Let's get it out there, test it with our best product. It's an embedded router, and it was focused for Verizon Wireless. So traditionally what this is meant for is OEMs, people who already have the capability to design and build it into an embedded, device. On the 600 series this year in Q4, we're launching our full range of, Cat 1 versions for AT&T, Verizon. So we're planning to get them out there. Our testing is starting right now. So if you guys want to actually test one, you can let us know. We can get you one. They'll be ready for full production by the end of this year. And then in Q1 of next year, we're actually going to be launching Sprint LTE Cat 1. So for those of you in the States, a lot of areas, they don't need Sprint, but in a lot of the metropolitan areas, people, they're heavily into Sprint, whether it's because of the coverage or the data cost, we're going to be supporting that too. And then as far as the Cat 1 version, for a global scale outside of North America, we'll be investing money in building that in 2018. Oh, excuse me, my mistake. For LTE Cat M1, that's the big step for next year. So now that we get the Cat 1 versions out this year, we're going to be moving into the Cat M1. So like I said, if I reflect back, be focusing on, more of the wearables, heavily into sensors, different asset tracking, with insanely low cost and very low bandwidth. And then for the NDTU, kind of a way to relaunch it and push it in the States now, we'll be looking into, an LTE Cat M1. So as far as, our first steps toward low power WAN, as I kind of mentioned before, the 901L series, it's really powerful. Literally, it's just an embedded version of the 900. So for those of you familiar with it, it's highly industrialized. It's got an open API for Python, so you can script it to do computing on the edge, which makes it a very, very, very powerful tool. And, the advantage of this is much lower cost, which is perfect for the OEMs who have the capabilities to, design the daughter board and engineer it into their product. And like I said, Verizon was one of the first to come out with the Cat 1, network, so it just made it ideal. So the InRouter600 series, as I said, it's available now, not so much for, mass production. If you got 10,000 units you need tomorrow, well, we're going to have to work on that. But if you'd like to start testing it, getting a feel for it, getting it out there to some customers, let them see the advantages of an LTE Cat 1 router, this is the time to do it. So lower cost. So for the 600 series, you're going to be able to get at a similar or even lower cost than what you're currently paying for 3G. So for you guys in Canada, like we said earlier, you're going to have 3G quite a few more years. You're not on the timeline we are in the States. But, if it's a lower cost than 3G, that means your customers, or if you are the customer, you can get the product and have, a 15, 20-year life cycle out of it. So it's a pretty hard deal to beat, personally. Extended battery life up to 10 years, extremely low power consumption, and then enhanced coverage, for challenging environments. So, it's really the IR600 series it's a perfect opportunity for people with connectivity, monitoring, asset tracking. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself, but, this is a great thing for migrating and finally getting over to 4G. So like I said, latency, we kind of covered that already, 50 to 100, megabytes per second. Bands and carriers, for those of you who want a little more information on it, it's 2, 4, and 12. And Sprint will be coming soon. FCC, PTCRB, IC, Rogers Bell, TELUS, all the major carriers. As far as your applications, traditionally see this in, ATMs, kiosks, connected retail, different types of, POS, certain types of failover that need, don't need excessive bandwidth, metering, asset tracking, HVAC control, smart cities, anywhere that kind of fits that niche that we talked about before, such as the low bandwidth, low cost, and still low latency. So as far as case studies go, You know, the first one we did, I know we talked about the IR901. It was kind of our first, well, let's try out LTE Cat 1 and see how it is. You know, our first customer was Connector, and what they do is they do metering, but it's to also track from solar panels. So you pretty much pull out your meter at your home, plug in their device, and then you mount the meter back in. So that way you know exactly how much energy is coming from the grid and how much is coming from your solar panel. And like I said, they embedded our LTE Cat 1 in it. And, you know, very satisfied with the cost, with the latency, with the data speed. And then, you know, they still have the option to script on Python for any other type of applications they might want to do, or any type of, you know, change in the features they offer from their, I guess, meter accessory. Wireless ATMs, POS. Like I said, with these devices, you know, it's not like you're streaming video. I mean, it's very, very, very small amounts of data. I mean, most customers I know in the ATM and POS business, you know, maybe they're doing at a max 10 megabytes per month per device. So the packets are really small. You don't really need to pay for a Cat 3 or Cat 4. It's kind of overkill. And like I said, if you can get it at a lower cost than, you know, a lower or similar cost to 3G, why not go for the 4G? And I mean, as it says on the side, rate requirement, roughly 100 kilobytes per second. So it's a great fit. Connected vending machines, same thing. Vending machines, you're not really doing two-way communication. So you just need a good upload speed. You know, it's just reporting what's in the machine, what's been sold, you know, different transactions. Usually there's some type of POS connected. HVAC controls for our more industrial customers. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on in the HVAC world, and they always need for control and for monitoring. You know, refrigerant overcharging, undercharging, leakage, cooling, heating. You know, it's automatic alerts. And before we go into port numbers, you know, like I said, those were just a few applications. We've actually went out there and done some stuff with the LTE Cat 1. But, you know, anything like with kiosk, with a lot of digital signage where you know, maybe you're not moving, you know, 4K ultra high def videos over the line, but you need to actually track and show your customer that, hey, you paid for 4 hours display of this image in 30-second cycles. You know, here's your proof. Here's your real-time proof. So just reporting for digital signage is another good one. You know, industrial automation. You know, if you have any type of like sensor equipment that you just need to pull data and push back, you know, to your SCADA or something where it's, you know, a small amount of data, it's another ideal application. A big thing now that's coming out a lot, you know, these EV charging stations for cars and different applications, anything with the solar panel where you need to report on charge, discharge of the battery, you know, what's its current rates, you know, how long is it going to last, stuff like that. They're all perfect. I could go on for days. Yeah. So we'll move on to the part numbers because, like I said, we launched the Cat 1. We will have new part numbers. So the key criteria here is if you're looking at like AT&T, T-Mobile, Canada, you know, it's going to be the FB13. That's going to be your key number in here. So the IR611 describes your series and your model number. The FB13 is going to say, hey, this is Cat 1 module. And then, you know, if you wanted other features like Wi-Fi, UWLAN. So the last thing we're going to talk about is, you know, we all have those customers that you need to get them to migrate over to LTE, especially here in the States, but they're going to wait to the last minute. And then what's going to happen is they're going to start losing coverage, or they can't activate any more devices. And the first person they're going to call is you. You know, you've told them for 6 months you need to migrate over to LTE, but they're still going to wait and they're still going to call you. So, you know, to kind of help mitigate this, what we're looking into is kind of like a promotion to get people to, hey, go ahead and make the switch. So, you know, migrate to LTE without upfront hardware costs. So one simple monthly fee covers it all. You can get your InRouter600 series with a Cat 1, either a 15 or a 611. You can get your data plan for AT&T or Verizon. and just pay one fee. So if I have 1,000 devices out there and I waited to the last minute and I need to migrate those over to LTE, well, this is a prime opportunity, because instead of, spending hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s all at one time or over the course of a few months, I can kind of space that out, just incorporate it into a monthly fee. You just pay the fee and then you get the hardware with the connectivity and you're good to go. And like I said, from our previous webinars, we do have our host of VPNs, so we can bundle the whole service together. So that way you receive a device with a VPN pre-configured, connected, literally just plug and play. So at this time, I'll open it up for any questions you guys might have. Feel free to use the tool in Zoom. Be more than happy to answer them. I got 2 people that raised a hand. All right, looks like Joe and Rob. So if you guys could just jump over into the tool and click on Q&A, you can drop a question for us. Would you know the power ratio for the IR615, working on a battery option for power?
Battery option for power. Okay, so I think there's a little bit confusing message in the PowerPoint file that's mentioned about 10 years, which is designed for a very extreme case. So, for example, for IR615, we are going to release official product spec. Somehow it's lower power consumption than the 3G than our current 3G or LTE products. But to design the battery options, we need to do a little bit more calculation, and depends on how much it can turn into the hibernate mode, and how much time it needs to work in averagely 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. So it's not it's not a simple and straight answer for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that feed into it, like if you got it connecting on demand, how much data it's pushing out, how often it's connecting and reporting. I mean, okay, well, Rob gave me the thank you. You answered his question, sir.
Yeah.
All right, so now we'll go to Joe. Are the IR6 series devices the same as the current LTE, but with Cat 1 radio module? Yeah, in essence, it's got all the same features, the same dimensions, almost all the same specs. The only specs that'll vary is based off of the new module in it. And also, Joe's got a question. Do you have a spec for power consumption, as this is very relevant to solar and batteries users? Like Ming said, we're going to be launching the spec sheet. This is kind of the precursor to, hey, this is what we're working on. We finished our internal testing and this is a pre-launch. So we have units available now, for test and eval. So you can get them out there, play with them, check them out. But as far as the official launch and the spec sheets and all the documentation, that'll be coming soon.
That's right.
All right. Anyone else have any questions? Appreciate your questions, Rob and Joe. All right. For Rob Mullins, have you received the IC certification on the 615?
Not yet. Not yet. It's still on the paperwork aspect. So it's just paperwork now.
Yeah, all the testing's finished. We just got to wait for him to sign off and kick us the official seal.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here from Joe. Do you have knowledge of what the carriers in Canada have for Cat 1 rollout and coverage?
We have not get the official answer yet. We approach both Thales, Rogers, about what's their plan for category 1. So there's no official answer, but according to our tests, it works well. Because the module is compatible, the bands are the same as normal LTE networks, network Cat 3, Cat 4. They are all using the same bands, so the product itself works quite well according to our test right now.
I mean, the key component here is the module itself. I know Verizon's making a big thing about, oh, we're launching a Cat 1, band and coverage, but the truth is that's more of just a marketing pitch than anything else. Because I mean, can correct me if I'm wrong. The lower cost is because the module uses less power, less speed, so it doesn't require as much resources to construct it. And the bandwidth and speeds, it's all tied together within the module.
Yeah, also this also partially explains that why we like category 1 very much, because compared to other technology under the NB-IoT umbrella, or let's say low power WAN umbrella, category 1 is a very easy upgrade for the operators. So it's very easy, they don't need to spend a lot of money, and so that they can quickly launch the nationwide support to category 1 network. So I think at the same time, according to our test, the uplink rate is better, the latency is better than 3G. I mean, if we compare to 3G, so it's a perfect replacement. It's a perfect upgrade of 3G networks, and everybody's happy.
All right, any more questions? All right. Well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and close the webinar. Definitely appreciate you guys coming. And like I said, if you want a sample, you want any more information, you want a copy of the PowerPoint, any more details and information on Cat 1, where we're going, production release, documentation, feel free to reach out to your InHand guy, and, we'll get you what you need. And like I said, hopefully look forward to seeing you guys on our next webinar. We always do it the last Wednesday of the month. So till then.
Okay, thank you.